you pretty much have taken a leaf out of what they have promised in their manifesto. Free electricity, they said up to 200 units, you said 250. They came up with a scheme for Jivika Didis, you came up with something for Lakpati Didis. It's merely a copy-paste job, but they came out with it first, so they may have advantages, what they believe.
Poonam, what we promised today is in continuation of, it is in continuation with what we have done for last 2 decades. When we talk about building bigger infrastructure, we have proved in last 20 years that we are in a position to build a world-class infrastructure in Bihar. When we talk about making Lakpati Didis, we have proved a model of Jivika where 1.40 crore our sisters Jivika Didis are with us, and they have produced a domestic market of 50,000 plus crore rupees. We have proved it all. When we say that we will give 1 crore job and Swarojgar, we have got a plan and a vision to back it. It is not like Mahagadbandhan's Pran is something, Tejashwi's Pran, which is a bundle of lies. No practicality at all. Probably it is based on the whim and fancy of Tejashwi Yadav. That's why they are calling it Tejashwi's Pran. Congress, I don't know whether Congress was consulted or even Congress was not consulted, because I could not see even a single senior Congress leader present on the day when this Tejashwi Pran was being released. When we were
Rahul Gandhi was conspicuous with his absence, but there were Congress leaders present during their manifesto release.
You tell me, any senior Congress leader was present. Rahul Gandhi was there the day after, but he was not present at that point. When we were releasing our Sankalp Patra, our national president was there. CM of Bihar was there. Because what we promised, we delivered. And we have delivered it. What we promised in past, we delivered it. When we say that we will be able to create jobs, we have got a strong plan to back it. We are going to make Bihar a global hub for skilled labor, for skills. When we say that, okay, we are going to give 9,000 rupees to all people who want to have cattle, who want to go with fisheries, then at the similar time, we are also planning to have chilling plants at every district. So these are our plans and visions to make Bihar that much able physically that what we promise we are able to deliver.
Anshula Vijay, this is just an extension of what NDA has done, and they have a track record to show, which is why they feel confident that their promises will resonate.
No, that's exactly my point. Where is the track record? On all socio-economic indicators, you go through any of them by economists or which have been coming out, Bihar performs the lowest in all of them. In per capita income, in the levels of gross levels of poverty that we see, Bihar has the largest number of poor people in the country in terms of state, in terms of percentage. In terms of MSP that has not been given to farmers, there's a huge amount of agricultural distress because farmers are forced to give to traders who sell the grain to other states where the MSP rates are much higher. They don't give them. The law and order has completely collapsed, and that's another reason you're not getting any industry. There has been absolutely no industrial expansion. In fact, the Prime Minister had promised 75,000 crore rupees, barely 5,000 crores have come in for industrial expansion in the state. That's next to nothing. Every single indicator suggests, every data point suggests that Bihar is the lowest. That's no secret. The NDA Manifesto, as we've been saying, is an apologetic one. It's apologizing for things they have not done. After all, they are the government in power. They are the incumbent. They have a lot more to answer for. Yes, let me just focus now on what we are now promising. Our promises have proven to be true in Karnataka and in Telangana, where we made a number of promises for employment, for women, for youth. They've all come to fruition, right, in both the states. Here we're going to do the same thing. And why is the Mahagadbandhan poll promises so radical? You would think, and these are legitimate questions to ask Poonam, where is the money going to come from? They are so radical, government job for each family. The context is that the Bihar has been pushed to such an edge. It's been brought to such a brink, but that there was no choice except to hope for a shock treatment of Bihar, a quick economic revival. The question is where the money
at whose cost is that shock treatment coming to the fore, Shekhar Iyer? That's also something that's important to note, isn't it? I mean, both parties have made the kind of promises that they have, but where is the money coming from?
Exactly, Poonam. That is what is worrying all of us, not these political parties. Both sides seem to be promising, the moon and whatnot. But question is, between the two manifestos, what is more doable? That is what. And an average BR voter is a very sharp person. He knows what will actually come on hand and what will not. But one distinct thing I can see is that NDA promises more of creating a ecosystem that will allow for development growth. On the other hand, Tejasvi Yadav's approach is more like handing money on hand, which is like, for instance, take the biggest promise of providing government job, mind you, government job to every person of every family. I mean, rather, to every family. Now, this is going to be very big, tall order. Even if you were to start with, say, it takes 2 years to start providing jobs. It's a tall order. And we must not forget what has happened after, this kind of promises were made in, say, Himachal Pradesh, in Karnataka, or even in Telangana. See, these promises, or even Maharashtra for that matter. See, the promises that were made and subsequently what has happened. Now, there was a time when Prime Minister was opposed to freebies. There was a debate about freebies. Even the matter went up to the Supreme Court. Subsequently, with Congress showing that freebies work in winning elections, BJP has not been far behind. But the result is, this is going to create a situation where a lot of promises are very difficult to implement. You ask Siddaramaiah today, the promises that were made by Priyanka Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, which I believe was not done with much consultation with Siddaramaiah because they were made in the course of rallies. Today, the Karnataka government is struggling. MLAs are unhappy, ministers are unhappy because no other fund is left for constituency development. I mean, I'm not getting into this party or that party. When you are making these promises, see what is happening in the state. At least Karnataka has a better revenue model. I mean, in terms of state exchequer earning is much more, whereas BR would entirely depend on what the center can provide. So if NDA is making those, and NDA kind of promises, you watch everything, is more about creating a system which will encourage more entrepreneurial development, which will encourage more.
But Shekhar Iyer, even with the NDA promises, the cost is not significantly lower. I mean, if Mahagathbandhan's promises would be putting about 60,000 crore rupee burden on the state budget, it's about 36,000 odd for the NDA. I mean, where is this 36,000 crore going to come from either?
No, that is why I wish the parties were more honest. I mean, they could make some promises which are actually doable. I'm not saying they should not dream big. They should dream big. But at the same time, what is the track record of delivery? See, at least under Nitish Kumar, things have changed, though they have not changed to the extent that they should have changed compared to the previous regime. Now, this current Mahagathbandhan largely also carries the baggage of the rule that was provided under Lalu Rabdi Raj, because that is also a talking point in these elections. Therefore, these promises, I do not know whether the average BRA voter will get easily impressed. He would rather look at, and public memory when it comes to getting things on hand is not so short. I mean, they can't remember what was delivered, what was not delivered by this government or the previous government.
And eventually, it might be about what is in hand. I mean, the kind of cash transfers that have already been given by the Nitish government, maybe that's what would be remembered by certain section of voters. That is exactly what happened in Maharashtra as well. They did have the advantage that they had an incumbent government that had already started giving women the kind of money that was being promised by the other side. So, I mean, a bird in hand was obviously worth more than in the bush, and that's exactly what transpired there. But will that happen, Kuntal Krishna, in Bihar as well? I mean, it's not a solid comparison to make. Maharashtra was very different. So is Bihar.
See, Poonam, what we today, revealed, it is a public vision and it is our public roadmap. We are not making any promise. We are revealing our vision and roadmap for Bihar based on our track record. What Mr. Iyer was saying, that there has to be a track record to back any vision. We have got a track record. It is a fact. Then in 11 years, more than 15 lakh crore rupees were spent in Bihar to build infrastructure. It is a fact. And it is also a fact that between 2004 and 2014, only 2.5 lakh crores were given to Bihar to build anything. It is a fact. And fact remains a fact. When we say that we will make 1 crore Lakhpati Didis. We have got a solid plan to back it. We have got an infrastructure. We have got an ecosystem which is called Jivika. We are giving
But Kuntal Krishna,
10,000 plus.
the fact also is that there are promises of freebies that are being made from the NDA side, which the BJP had vehemently opposed and slammed the opposition for doing. When you say you're
Poonam, we
offering
are-
free electricity units, that's exactly what
Just for
in
just
Delhi
for 3 years.
the BJP
Just
slammed
for
the Aam
3
Aadmi Party
years.
for.
Poonam, just for 3 years. After that, we want to connect every household with a solar plan. We want to connect every household with PM solar plan so that electricity would be totally free. Just for 3 years, we are giving a subsidy on 125 units only. So this is something which is called vision. We have got a vision. When we say that we will have private investment, we have a track record. General Electrical, one company, one conglomerate has invested 40,000 crores in Bihar. One conglomerate. Pepsi is investing, Coke is investing, Prestige is investing, Adani is investing. We are making Bihar a ecosystem where any investor would come and invest.
Sure.
When we say that we are planning to make Bihar global
Sure.
back-end hub.
So Anshul Avijit, the comparison would be that if you're talking about how the NDA, if they return to power, plans to fund the kind of promises they do, then they have a track record of showing the kind of investments that have come into the state, as opposed to Karnataka, where you're seeing many such investments go out of the state.
No, I mean, my question to my good friend Kuntal would be, what were you doing up till now? All the operative word that we've all used, and you've used it yourself, Poonam, they plan to do it. It's all futuristic. It's prospective.
Poonam,
it's in the future.
I would need 1
want to
minute to
answer
Abhijit.
what on earth were you doing for the last 20 years? Look, we didn't have to give these kind of promises if the fiscal health and if the economic health of Bihar was in great shape, if Bihar was a powerhouse. Why would we need to make these kind of promises? And of course, we'll fulfill them. But why was that necessary? Because Bihar has been pushed to the very edge of its existence. I repeat, all economic indicators, socio-economic indicators are the worst that you can find in India. That is absolutely no secret, Poonam. I think the more legitimate question, and it's a fair question, is where is the funding going to come from? Look, the similar question is, you've just given 10,000 rupees to women out there. It costs about a crore women have been given according to the Prime Minister's latest speech. Where has that money come from? It's cost 1 lakh crores to give that money. The outlay, the Bihar budget, last time, this was not a budgetary allocation. Bihar's budget was 3.25 lakh crores. Where has that money come from? It's obviously a central funded scheme. Bihar doesn't have that money. So you're using money, you're using borrowings, and you're using money from where you can get it on the eve of the election.
But Anshul Avijit, that's the same case for Telangana as well. I mean, Telangana's debt has also gone up significantly over the last few years. And what has added to that debt is the kind of promises that were made by the Congress party pre-elections, and some of which have been delivered, some of which are being delayed. And that's a fact as well. But Kuntal Krishna, you had a rebuttal before I get in Mr. Iyer as well.
If Bihar is pushed to the very edge, who pushed Bihar to the very edge, Abhijit ji? It was you and RJD. It is a fact that during those 15 years, in the GDP,
but Kuntal bhai,
industrial
you've had 20
contribution
years.
was minus, Abhijit ji. I know you are a good economist. You know it now. During those 15 years, industrial contribution to GDP was in minus for few fiscal years. This was the Bihar which we got. Another fact is, we already invested 15 lakh crore to build infrastructure in these 20 years. Now there is road.
A lot
now
of which that infrastructure is crumbling, Kuntal Krishna, and we've seen pictures and videos of that. And unfortunate as it is, that's what the taxpayer gets. But Shekhar Iyer, as far as Bihar is concerned, and as far as this fight over these two alliances is concerned, who do you think has the upper hand, especially as far as the women and the youth are concerned? Because that seems to be the thrust for both of them. And Tejasvi Yadav and the Mahagathbandhan is trying to walk away from this Jungle Raj tag that the NDA is trying to push on them by harping on jobs, on employment, on focus on the youth particularly.
Well, Poonam, this election is going to decide that. Because, do people still trust Nitish Kumar to deliver? Or are they looking at Tejasvi Yadav as the next generation choice? Because Tejasvi Yadav has equally created buzz. I mean, one cannot deny the fact that his meetings have drawn good crowds. There has been a lot of response. And at the same time, they do see Nitish Kumar, because that is the importance of Nitish Kumar in this election, about Nitish Kumar and Bihar and future of Nitish Kumar and Bihar. Because that is why in the opposition campaign also they keep on saying that Nitish Kumar won't come back as CM, Nitish Kumar may not last, BJP may eventually replace him. If this is the running theme of the opposition, that is largely because they realize Nitish Kumar remains the biggest asset of NDA and he is the one who is pulling along. Of course, for implementation of all these promises would require a double engine sarkar. It has to be an NDA government here and NDA government at the center. Otherwise, some of these promises may not see the light of the day at all. Of course, in which case people will lose complete trust in these promises. But fortunately for Nitish Kumar and for NDA, his initial years, the manner in which he took care of women, special schemes for women, those are left behind a memory which is still in favor of NDA and Nitish Kumar.
And like in most states, women are going to be a crucial factor. In fact, the share of women voters is also increased this time around. So that's going to be extremely crucial. Which side or which alliance the voters of Bihar choose, we'll find out sooner than later. It's less than a week before that first vote is cast. But I have to leave it there. The voters of Bihar will decide whose promises really resonated with them. I thank you all, gentlemen, for joining us here on Brass Tacks. Shifting focus now, India and the United States have signed a framework agreement to expand defense cooperation over the next 10 years. The pact was announced after a meeting between US Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth, or Secretary of War as he's called, and his Indian counterpart Rajnath Singh in Kuala Lumpur on the sidelines of the ASEAN Defence Ministers meeting. The agreement is expected to provide policy direction to the entire spectrum of India-US defence relationship. It is the latest in a series of agreements that the two countries have signed. This also follows commitments that were made by US President Donald Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in February this year to enhance cooperation both in defence and on trade. So what are the key takeaways of this long defence deal? First things first, the deal aims to boost India's military logistics, production and technology transfer. This will further amplify indigenous production and defence modernization. AI-based warfare projects, R&D and intel sharing will play a crucial role in sharpening this structure. Remember, the key focus of this deal is stability in the Indo-Pacific region. Military collaboration and joint initiatives that are listed in this pact will play a vital role in countering China's influence in the Indo-Pacific region, and that's extremely important for India, given the circumstances.
3 बार टेलीफोनिक वार्ता हमारी हो चुकी है और जब आपसे एडीएम के साइडलाइंस पर व्यक्तिगत रूप से मिलकर मुझे बेहद खुशी हुई है और इस अवसर पर डिफेंस फ्रेमवर्क की शाइनिंग मैं समझता हूं कि उसके परिणाम स्वरूप आज एक नए अध्याय का प्रारंभ होगा और मेरा पूरा विश्वास है कि आपकी लीडरशिप में भारत और यूएस के रिश्ते और अधिक मजबूत होंगे।
And this new 10-year defense framework which we signed is ambitious. It's a significant step for our two militaries, a roadmap for deeper and even more meaningful collaboration ahead. It underscores America's long-term commitment to our shared security and our strong partnership between.
Now, the 10-year pact is a big boost to India's defence prowess. But what is the status of the acquisition and the deals that have already been inked between the two countries over the last few years? In 2021, a deal worth $716 million was inked between the two countries with a target of acquiring 99 F-404 engines for the Tejas Mark I. However, only 4 engines so far have been received. In 2020, India finalized a deal to procure 530 Stryker infantry combat vehicles from the United States. That pact unfortunately stood stalled in 2024 amid diplomatic controversies. The deal was eventually approved again in January this year. However, there has been no procurement so far and we are towards the fag end of the year. The deal on the Skyguard AN drones that was finalized last year aimed at receiving 31 drones from the United States at a cost of $3.5 billion. However, that procurement currently is zero. So where do we go from here on? Is this an opportunity? Are there hurdles and challenges that will continue? We'll open that up in just a bit.
In the corridors of power, both here in New Delhi and in Washington, D.C., buzzword for over a decade has been strategic partnership. But what gives this strategic partnership its teeth? That is India-US Defence Framework Agreement that has been signed today. In fact, the agreement has been renewed in the presence of Defence Minister of India, Rajnath Singh, and his counterpart from United States, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Both the ministers have been taking part in ASEAN's Defence Ministers Meet Plus in Malaysia, where both the parties have signed this agreement. As far as this agreement is concerned, so it was signed for the very first time in 2005 and in fact was renewed in 2015. This is for the third time when both the countries have signed this agreement, which is basically not just an agreement but are the governing principles of the kind of cooperation and support that both the countries are looking from each other as far as defense sector is concerned. At a time when India-US relations have been seeing ups and lows, this is one positive development that has been reported today, where both the ministers agreed on this particular agreement and this document was signed. As far as this framework is concerned, so this gives some sort of agenda as far as defense procurement, interoperability and the joint exercises are concerned. This agreement gives you some sort of principle for the information sharing, as both the countries are looking for some sort of support from each other.
So let's open this up. Lieutenant General DP Pandey, security analyst, is with us. Thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. How do you look at this 10-year defense framework? I mean, a lot of opportunities, but will there be a lot of challenges as well, given the history that we've seen with several deals that have been stuck somewhere on the way?
So, thank you for having me here. Firstly, let me tell, when we look at our PSUs, our systems and processes, we feel that they are very sluggish. But actually, when you deal with the US, when they call fast track, it is very, very slow track, right? So, especially in terms of procurement and finishing, or they will make commitments, sweeping commitments, but actually on ground, nothing much is delivered. It is not only with us, it is with most of the countries where they're signing such deals of defense deals, right? But then, of course, I look at the larger issue. It's not of what they have signed today. If you look at since Trump administration has come, and this point was talked about just previously by your field journalist reporter, who said that there have been ups and downs. On your channel only, with your other anchors and all, I have been talking and saying this part, that what Trump is speaking, he's speaking to all countries primarily to achieve certain degree of satisfy his own home constituency and all, and try and push better trade, better tariff rate, better deals and stuff like that. But with India, a couple of things have happened. Let's leave this deal aside. They have been continuing to engage in all other activities in terms of exercise, meeting, engagements, which are below the top level leadership engagement. So this is should convince the internal political hierarchy, our Indian population, that all is well when you're looking at engagement with America, right? What is happening? The trumpet is different. It is for a different purpose. But everything below the radar which is happening is quite. We have not talked about what Jaishankar did. He just met Julio Rubio a couple of days back,
Yeah.
So those meetings are happening, and the trade talks are happening, everything is happening. But this signing is very important in the sense they're talking of a decade-long partnership. There's a 21st century partnership. When you look at it, 2047 as our mission end objective, you look at this is nearly halfway through to that location, to that period. So while all our desires in terms of equipment which we solicit from US may not land on our shores, but definitely there is a talk engagement which is going on, which is very important for global perspectives, global eyeballs which are got that things are pretty fine between the two countries, and there is a strategic partnership. I will feel happy when that quad which is required to happen in India happens, and the President Trump comes and meets Modi, and there is some sort of a talk. I think then we'll see things passing, falling in place. But otherwise, I think signing of these deals, if we are able to have greater engagement and our strikers are able to come through in time, our Tejas engines which are required manifest on ground to us, they are able to achieve. But I don't think it will happen very quickly. Striker may come through, javelins may come through, your balance of attack captors may come through, even your MQ9s may be able to come through. These are easier things which can manifest. But getting the Tejas engine, I think is a long haul, it will take some time. But yes, I think this should satisfy. Okay, the other part is language, Indo-specific language has come out very clearly. Languages matter. Till now, you are listening to Asia Pacific, but in this deal, they have used the word Indo-Pacific, which is very, very, very important. So nuances which come out on paper and signed are very important for us. Therefore, the centrality of India in Indo-Pacific as possibly a very important security partnership in the region. Because our major enemy is not with America. Our competitor, our contestant, which will not look at our rise very, very happily or nicely, is our element which is in the north. And therefore, these structuring, these building blocks which are going for a larger cooperation is very important. The last I'll wind up is, we lack technological support, innovations. That is missing. So while on one side, we may want to lean on the Western systems to come while we develop our indigenized system, we can't have that void till the time our Atmanirbhar Bharat is actually able to roll out. We require certain degree of, leanings, this thing. And these will come into effect, when any engagement with even the Western competitor as Pakistan happens. I can assure you that there will be adequate support which will be there from the Americans in terms of forewarning, enabling, empowering. And this is very important. This shake hand which you're seeing on the screen is very, very important for us.
Also, do you think this is a part of a balancing act, so to say, that Delhi may be looking at? Because, we were talking about what Donald Trump has been doing and saying as far as trade and tariff goes. And Russia being a major aspect of it, Russia is a key partner for India as far as defense goes. So do you think in that context, having this particular framework with the United States is also a balancing act between United States and Russia, and that India making it clear that we need both?
So last 11 years or 12 years, since the time this government has come, it has started reducing reliance on Russian product. If you see where we are now, I don't have the figures with me, but somewhere around 50% we are getting from Russia. Today we are down to about 30-35%, and is likely to go down further. More so, our spread has been there. We have gone to France, we've gone to Israel, we have gone to so many other countries. Our spread of defense equipment production and procurement has actually expanded to multiple countries, because as COVID is an example, as Ukraine, Russia is a conflict example, even Israel and Hamas conflict example, you realize that you just can't rely on one supply chain. While your Atmanirbhar Bharat indigenization process is getting strengthened over a period of time, we need to continue to have these pipelines to get defense and technology, defense equipment, but more importantly, technology from abroad, till the time we actually are able to be actually self-sufficient, which is not going to happen in next. I don't look at minimum of about 2 to 3 decades are required to be actually somewhere about 70 to 80% self-reliant in terms of this thing. I mean, niche technology, which are chip-based, which are electromagnetic spectrum-based, I think we are about 5 decades out right now. There's the real people may particle spectrum, others may come out and say it is doable, nice, possible, but there are huge challenges.
And those challenges hopefully will be overcome when we do have such pacts with countries like the United States. And that's one step taking forward in our self-reliance story. But Lieutenant Pandey, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us here with your perspective.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Speaking of the United States, US Vice President J.D. Vance is facing major backlash after he told a group of college students in Mississippi that he hopes his wife and the Second Lady of the United States, Usha Vance, who is a Hindu, converts to Christianity. These comments came after Vance was questioned over his wife's faith and how they were bringing up their children. The former Ohio senator replied that his wife grew up in what he called was not a particularly religious Hindu family. In fact, he went on to say that both he and Usha Vance were agnostic, but that has now raised questions. The controversy, like I said, began with J.D. Vance's comments where he said that he hoped his Hindu wife converted to Christianity, but many saw this as a pressure tactic, suggesting that he's trying to influence his wife's personal beliefs rather than respecting her choice. Critics have gone a step further, calling these remarks Hindu-phobic. They argue that such statements reinforce stereotypes and show a lack of understanding about interfaith respect. Then there's what Vance said about his wife's background, that she grew up in not a particularly religious Hindu family. This, many see, was an attempt to downplay Usha's Hindu upbringing as if it may seem that her faith was less significant. Another point of contention, J.D. Vance completely ignored the fact that the couple had a Vedic wedding rooted in Hindu traditions. That detail contradicts his suggestion that faith wasn't an important part of his wife or her family's life. And lastly, Vance's remarks go against the very idea of religious freedom and equality, especially coming from a sitting vice president of a country like America. His comments have reignited debate, especially on social media, about respecting faith diversity in interfaith marriages. Here's the complete story.
Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, is making waves, not for policy, but for faith. Recently, he openly expressed his hopes that his Hindu wife, Usha Vance, will one day embrace Christianity. Speaking at a Turning Point USA event in Mississippi, Vance said, "Most Sundays, Usha comes with me to church. Do I hope she will be moved the same way I was? Yes, I honestly do."
Now, most Sundays, Usha will come with me to church. As I've told her and I've said publicly, and I'll say now in front of 10,000 of my closest friends, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that.
You are raising three kids in cultural, racial, religious household. How are you maintaining or how are you teaching your kids not to keep your religion ahead of their mother's religion?
Vance insisted that their marriage is built on mutual respect and understanding, emphasizing that her faith doesn't cause conflict at home. But the remark has stirred debates about personal choice, interfaith dynamics, and the role of religion in public life. Usha Vance, who is Hindu, has said clearly she does not intend to convert. She ensures their children experience both Christian and Hindu traditions, from attending church to trips to India and learning about Hindu culture. Interestingly, Usha played a pivotal role in J.D. Vance's own religious journey when they met at Yale Law School. Both identified as agnostic. After 2019, Vance converted to Catholicism, describing Usha as a supportive partner during his spiritual transformation.
I did grow up in a religious household. My parents are Hindu, and that was one of the things that made them such good parents, that make them really very good people.
Usha explained, reflecting on the role of her cultural roots in supporting Vance's faith. Vance's comment intersects with a worrying trend: the rise of anti-Indian and anti-Hindu sentiment in the US. Recent years have seen attacks on Indian Americans, online hate speech, and racially charged incidents, some tragically violent. Observers fear that public statements from high-ranking officials, even personal remarks, can embolden extremists. Neo-Nazis, certain MAGA groups, and some politicians have targeted Hindu culture, labeling Hindu deities as false gods and calling for the marginalization of Indian communities. Amid this backdrop, the Vances are raising 3 children in a Christian household, while giving them exposure to Hindu culture and traditions. Usha has stressed that this is about dialogue and choice, not coercion. The children understand both faiths, and Usha hopes to turn church visits into a family experience rather than a demand. This dynamic highlights the broader struggle in interfaith families, balancing personal belief, family cohesion, and societal pressures. Vance's comments also raise questions about public versus private faith. As Vice President, his words carry weight, influencing public perception and political discourse. Critics argue that when leaders emphasize one religion as the foundation of a nation, it can inadvertently reinforce bias and exclusion against minority faiths. Even within the US government, this raises concerns. How does one navigate personal faith while representing a diverse, multi-religious nation?
We talked about Christianity, all of this. I'm not even Christian and I'm here standing to show support. Why are we making Christianity one of the major things that you have to have in common to be one of you guys, to show that I love America just as much as you do? Why is that still a question? Why do I have to be a Christian?
I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way.
For the Indian American and Hindu communities, these remarks are a reminder of the delicate balance they must maintain, practicing faith freely while facing societal bias. Remarks of US Vice President is a lens into faith, family and power in America, showing how deeply personal beliefs intersect with politics, culture and society at large. And in a nation where religion and politics often collide, every word from leaders like J.D. Vance carries weight, shaping the future of America.
Celebrating Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel's 150th birth anniversary, Prime Minister Modi addressed the nation from Ekta Nagar, launching a sharp attack on past Congress governments, particularly former Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, over national security and Jammu and Kashmir. Prime Minister Modi alleged that Sardar Patel wanted to integrate all of Kashmir, but Nehru did not let that wish be fulfilled. Prime Minister Modi accused the Congress of adopting a weak approach that led to a part of Kashmir falling under Pakistan's occupation and fostering terrorism. He then proceeded to administer the Ekta Divas pledge to attendees that were present in Kevadia and observed the Rashtriya Ekta Divas parade. This year's celebrations featured a cultural festival alongside the National Unity Day parade by police and paramilitary forces, much in the lines of the Republic Day parade in the national capital. But listen in to what the Prime Minister had to say.
आजादी के बाद जिन लोगों को देश ने दायित्व सौंपा, उन्हीं लोगों ने वी द पीपल की स्पिरिट की हत्या करने का प्रयास किया। उन्होंने अपनी सोच और विचारधारा से अलग हर व्यक्ति और संगठन का तिरस्कार किया। एक पार्टी, एक परिवार के बाहर हर व्यक्ति और हर विचार को अछूत बनाने की भरसक कोशिश हुई। आजादी के बाद 550 से ज्यादा रियासतों को एक साथ जोड़ने का असंभव कार्य को उन्होंने संभव करके दिखा दिया। एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत का विचार उनके लिए सर्वोपरि था। सरदार साहब चाहते थे जैसे उन्होंने बाकी रियासतों का विलय किया, वैसे ही पूरे कश्मीर का विलय हो। लेकिन नेहरू जी ने उनकी वो इच्छा पूरी नहीं होने दी। कश्मीर को अलग संविधान और अलग निशान से बांट दिया गया। कांग्रेस की लचर नीतियों के कारण कश्मीर का एक हिस्सा पाकिस्तान के अवैध कब्जे में चला गया।
It's time for a quick break here on this edition of Brass Tacks. But on the other side, we'll get you a detailed report on whether this world that we live in is on the brink of a nuclear war. Is a Cold War 2.0 in question? Why are we saying that? Because a comment coming in from the US President Donald Trump has triggered fear, it has triggered confusion and raised several concerns. We'll get you that report after this very quick break. Don't go anywhere.
This is News18 Network. India's largest news network.
तो पिछले साल आज ही के दिन 357 AQI था। 2024 में आज के दिन 357 AQI था और 2023 में आज के दिन 328 AQI था। और मुझे बताते हुए मेरे अपने सभी ऑफिसर साहिबान का मैं धन्यवाद करता हूं जो इन्होंने इतनी मेहनत करी और खास तौर पर पिछले 2 दिन से इतनी बारीकी से कॉर्पोरेशन और दिल्ली सरकार एक अच्छी कोऑर्डिनेशन के साथ काम कर रही है। 218 आज AQI हुआ है। हमें उम्मीद है कि आने वाले दिनों में इसको और हम नीचे लेके आएंगे। मैं ये बताना चाहता हूं इसके अलावा क्योंकि हमें आए हुए अभी 7-8 महीने हुए हैं, हमारे बहुत सारी चीजें अभी प्रोसेस में हैं। हमने दिल्ली के अंदर नए इनोवेशन के माध्यम से बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजों को देखा है जो आने वाले दिनों में पोल्यूशन कम कर पाएंगी। उनके ऊपर IIT दिल्ली के माध्यम से और ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के माध्यम से स्टडी चल रही है। व्हीकलर पोल्यूशन के लिए भी हमने कुछ ऑल्टरनेटिव्स ढूंढे हैं। हमने कहा था पिछले दिनों में आपको बताया था कि एक इनोवेशन चैलेंज हमारा जो था उसमें 48 एंट्रीज आई है ना, 46 एंट्रीज ऐसी आई हैं जिन्होंने अपने अपने इनोवेशंस बताए हैं, बड़े इनोवेटिव आइडियाज दिए हैं। सरकार 8 महीनों में माननीय रेखा गुप्ता जी की विजनरी थॉट के कारण, उनके रात दिन मेहनत के कारण दिल्ली को तकरीबन 20% नए व्हीकल आने के बावजूद, माफ करना 21% नई कंस्ट्रक्शन होने के बावजूद, 8.5% से 10% नई गाड़ियां आने के बावजूद, इन सभी चुनौतियों के बावजूद कूड़े का ढेर फालतू होने के कारण, क्योंकि पॉपुलेशन बढ़ी है, ये सारी चीजें इंक्रीज होने के बावजूद और 15 साल और 10 साल की गाड़ियां भी चल रही हैं और दीपावली भी मनाई गई। इन सब चैलेंजेस के बावजूद पिछले 1 दहाई के 10 सालों के बराबर दिल्ली को बेस्ट AQI एयर क्वालिटी के इंडेक्स की बात करें तो बेस्ट देने में कामयाब हुई है आज की दिल्ली की सरकार। और मैं आपसे आग्रह भी करना चाहता हूं मीडिया के बंधुओं से, जो लोग काम करते हैं बड़ी मेहनत से करते हैं, सेंसेशनल फैलाने के लिए, अपने 4 रीडर्स के दिमाग में अलग सी बात डालने के लिए आपको हमारी मेहनत पे पानी नहीं फेरना चाहिए। मैं आपसे आग्रह करता हूं, आपका योगदान ही हमारा उत्साह को और बढ़ाता है, हमारे अधिकारियों के कर्मचारियों के उत्साह को और बढ़ाता है। तो मैं आपसे आग्रह करना चाहता हूं कि आईने की तरह सच को सामने रखें, बताएं लोगों को पॉपुलेशन 1 साल में बढ़ने के बावजूद, ट्रैफिक बढ़ने के बावजूद, 10 साल और 15 साल की गाड़ियां लॉ होने के बावजूद, दिल्ली में कंस्ट्रक्शन बढ़ने के बावजूद और दिल्ली के अंदर दीपावली बनाने के बावजूद दिल्ली की पॉल्यूशन को, दिल्ली को हवा को साफ करने में पिछले सालों के मुताबिक दिल्ली सरकार कामयाब हुई। जैसे मैंने कहा, ये हिस्टोरिकल है कि 218 इस बार है, जबकि पिछली बार 357 था। 30% मोर, लगभग 33% ज्यादा था इस साल से, इस दिन से। और उससे पिछले साल की बात करूं तो 30% ज्यादा था।
US President Donald Trump's decision to resume testing of the country's nuclear weapons has ruffled more than a few feathers. Not only is the world watching with fear and confusion, the US Congress is also sharply divided. Democrats are calling it dangerous and misguided retaliation. Republicans may be celebrating for now, but some within Team Trump are caught off guard. So what did Donald Trump mean? What comes next, and should the world be worried? I dig a little deeper.
We have more nuclear weapons than anybody. We don't do testing. We've halted it many years ago. But with others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also.
US President Donald Trump's surprise announcement to resume nuclear testing has sparked fears, confusion, and warnings from around the world. His announcement, made on Truth Social just hours before a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Busan, signals a seismic recalibration of Washington's nuclear doctrine. Donald Trump said that this would be on equal basis with Russia and China, asserting that the United States cannot afford to fall behind in strategic capability. From onboard Air Force One, Donald Trump appended more than 3 decades of restraint on nuclear policy. But he said that nuclear test sites would be determined later. What also was not clear is that if Donald Trump meant a nuclear weapons test or a test of a nuclear-capable weapon system. Even his advisors seemed blindsided. Vice Admiral Richard Correll, Trump's nominee to lead the military command in charge of this nuclear arsenal, was pressed by US senators at his confirmation hearing to try and interpret the president's comments. But he didn't seem to know the details himself. Trump's decision to restart nuclear weapons testing follows a rapid expansion by China of its nuclear stockpile in the recent years. According to a Pentagon report, Beijing could have 1,000 nuclear warheads by the end of the decade. China has constructed at least 3 complexes for launching ballistic missiles in the recent years and test-fired an intercontinental ballistic missile into the Pacific Ocean just in 2024. But Trump's instructions to the Pentagon has put Beijing on guard. Chinese Foreign Ministry said that they hope the United States will abide by its commitment to a moratorium on nuclear testing and obligations under a test ban treaty.
中方希望美方切实遵守全面禁止核试验条约的义务和暂停核试验的承诺，以实际行动维护国际核裁军与核不扩散体系，维护全球战略平衡与稳定。
Trump's declaration also comes just days after Russia successfully tested 2 new weapons capable of carrying nuclear warheads. Russian President Vladimir Putin recently unveiled new strategic weapons, including the Poseidon nuclear-powered underwater drone and a cruise missile, both capable of carrying nuclear payloads. He also confirmed that Russia's Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile, dubbed Saturn II, is nearing deployment. Though Russia denied it as a nuclear test, it had set the wheels in motion for Donald Trump's next move.
Президент Трамп в своем заявлении упомянул о том, что другие страны занимаются, дескать, испытанием ядерного оружия. До сих пор нам не было известно, что кто-то занимается испытанием. И если каким-то образом имеется в виду испытание буревестника, это не является ядерным испытанием никоим образом.
So why is the world in a tizzy? Because it raises fears of a possibility of another Cold War. The United Nations reaffirmed its firm opposition to nuclear testing, stating it is unacceptable under any circumstances. Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned of the risks associated with nuclear testing.
The Secretary General has repeatedly asserted that current nuclear risks are already alarmingly high, and all actions that could lead to miscalculation or escalation with catastrophic consequences must be avoided. And as he has said, we must never forget the disastrous legacy of over 2,000 nuclear weapons tests carried out over the last 80 years, and that nuclear testing can never be permitted under any circumstances.
The United States opened the nuclear era in July 1945 with the test of a 20-kiloton atomic bomb, and then dropped 2 atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945 to force Japan to surrender in World War II. The Soviet Union shocked the West by detonating its first nuclear bomb just 4 years later in August 1949. Between 1945 and 1996, over 2,000 nuclear tests were carried out. But at the end of the Cold War, the world's major nuclear powers declared a voluntary moratorium on nuclear testing. Erstwhile Soviet Union, now Russia, tested its last nuclear weapon in 1990, United States in 1992 and China in 1996. This moratorium was put in place as part of an effort to maintain nuclear stability. Is that about to be completely uprooted? Well, Trump's statement about nuclear testing comes just 100 days before the expiration of the new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, the last remaining nuclear arms treaty between the United States and Russia, which limits each country to 1,550 warheads on deployed missiles that are capable of crossing continents.
We have a big arsenal, obviously. The Russians have a large nuclear arsenal. The Chinese have a large nuclear arsenal. Sometimes you've got to test it to make sure that it's functioning and working properly. We've been working very closely, even with nations that we don't have the best relations with, to try to limit nuclear proliferation. The president's going to keep on working on that, but it's an important part of American national security to make sure that this nuclear arsenal we have actually functions properly, and that's part of a testing regime. To be clear, we know that it does work properly, but you got to keep on top of it over time, and the president just wants to make sure that we do that.
So who has the most nuclear weapons? The exact number of warheads is difficult to ascertain, as all countries want to maintain leverage with secrecy. But according to the Federation of American Scientists, Russia is believed to have a total of 5,459 warheads, while the US is a second with 5,177. Those numbers vary depending on who you ask. Washington-based Arms Control Association says the United States has a stockpile of 5,225 nuclear warheads, while Russia has 5,580. China is the third largest nuclear power with about 600 warheads. Now, the timing of Donald Trump's announcement marks the return of nuclear brinkmanship. President Trump often tries to project strength as a negotiation tactic, and this could be just another such tactic. For now, the Trump administration has downplayed global concerns, but it has raised valid fears. Will this usher in a dangerous new phase of nuclear competition? Could this be Cold War 2.0? And if this triggers a chain reaction, where does that leave our new multipolar world?
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
तो पिछले साल आज ही के दिन 357 AQI था। 2024 में आज के दिन 357 AQI था और 2023 में आज के दिन 328 AQI था। और मुझे बताते हुए मेरे अपने सभी ऑफिसर साहिबान का मैं धन्यवाद करता हूं, जो इन्होंने इतनी मेहनत करी और खास तौर पर पिछले 2 दिन से इतनी बारीकी से कॉरपोरेशन और दिल्ली सरकार एक अच्छी कोऑर्डिनेशन के साथ काम कर रही है। 218 आज AQI हुआ है। हमें उम्मीद है कि आने वाले दिनों में इसको और हम नीचे लेके आएंगे। मैं ये बताना चाहता हूं, इसके अलावा क्योंकि हमें आए हुए अभी 7-8 महीने हुए हैं, हमारे बहुत सारी चीजें अभी प्रोसेस में हैं। हमने दिल्ली के अंदर नए इनोवेशन के माध्यम से बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजों को देखा है जो आने वाले दिनों में पोल्यूशन कम कर पाएंगी। उनके ऊपर IIT दिल्ली के माध्यम से और ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के माध्यम से स्टडी चल रही है। व्हीकलर पोल्यूशन के लिए भी हमने कुछ ऑल्टरनेटिव्स ढूंढे हैं। हमने कहा था, पिछले दिनों में आपको बताया था कि एक इनोवेशन चैलेंज हमारा जो था उसमें 48 एंट्रीज आई हैं ना, 46 एंट्रीज ऐसी आई हैं जिन्होंने अपने अपने इनोवेशंस बताए हैं, बड़े इनोवेटिव आइडियाज दिए हैं। सरकार 8 महीनों में माननीय रेखा गुप्ता जी की विजनरी थॉट के कारण, उनके रात दिन मेहनत के कारण दिल्ली को तकरीबन 20% नए व्हीकल आने के बावजूद, माफ करना 21% नई कंस्ट्रक्शन होने के बावजूद, 8.5% से 10% नई गाड़ियां आने के बावजूद, इन सभी चुनौतियों के बावजूद कूड़े का ढेर फालतू होने के कारण, क्योंकि पॉपुलेशन बढ़ी है, ये सारी चीज इंक्रीज होने के बावजूद और 15 साल और 10 साल की गाड़ियां भी चल रही हैं और दीपावली भी मनाई गई। इन सब चैलेंजेस के बावजूद पिछले 1 दहाई के 10 सालों के बराबर दिल्ली को बेस्ट AQI एयर क्वालिटी के इंडेक्स की बात करें तो बेस्ट देने में कामयाब हुई है आज की दिल्ली की सरकार। और मैं आपसे आग्रह भी करना चाहता हूं मीडिया के बंधुओं से, जो लोग काम करते हैं बड़ी मेहनत से करते हैं, सेंसेशनल फैलाने के लिए, अपने 4 रीडर्स के दिमाग में अलग सी बात डालने के लिए आपको हमारी मेहनत पे पानी नहीं फेरना चाहिए। मैं आपसे आग्रह करता हूं, आपका योगदान ही हमारा उत्साह को और बढ़ाता है, हमारे अधिकारियों के कर्मचारियों के उत्साह को और बढ़ाता है। तो मैं आपसे आग्रह करना चाहता हूं कि आईने की तरह सच को सामने रखें, बताएं लोगों को पॉपुलेशन।
Viewers, when the Trump administration unveiled a radical plan to slap a 50% tariff on India's exports, it was hard not to feel glum. Prospects were not looking bright for diamond cutting units of Surat, textile factories of Tirupur, and fish processing plants of Kochi. The value of exports to United States, a prime market for India, went down 37.5% in a span of just 4 months, from 8.8 billion